Sports have a scoreboard. It's there for a reason. But truly, is that the only reason? And are you able to explain what your philosophy is? Very quickly, I believe sports serves a higher purpose than just the numbers on a scoreboard. That's my personal philosophy, and I could talk about that for a long time, but if I needed to tell someone in 30 seconds, I could do it very quickly. And how I would define success would not be tied only to those numbers on the scoreboard. Because I like people to understand that you must control what you can. You can't control your opponents. And sometimes you've coached athletes, they had their personal best, or your team played outstanding, probably as good as you've ever seen them play. They fell short on the scoreboard. Does that mean they weren't successful? Do you treat them like they were not successful? Again, you have to decide. It's your coaching philosophy, but make sure that you're able to tell someone what your definition of success is. Your top 3 signature strengths, we're going to come back to that. I always like to know, what is your ultimate dream? What is your ultimate dream? You're spending hours and hours and hours coaching young people. I ask you, why do you coach? But now, what would you like to accomplish? Because to me, that's important to know. When I start something, it may change. It may not quite look the same as what I thought it would when I started. But at the same time, I knew what I wanted. I knew why I was doing it. I know why I'm coming to New Zealand. I mean, people sometimes ask me, why do you go to New Zealand? I mean, when I'm in the States. Oh, I know exactly. Because I truly believe that all of you, number one, I feel that all of you have an opportunity through sport to help change a nation. I felt that last December. How many of you were in Oakland at the Connecting Coaches? Raise your hands if you were. Okay. The Connecting Coaches Conference. I don't know if you felt the same way I did, but getting all the coaches, getting, 500, 600 coaches from all over the country there for 3 days. Listening to speakers like Steve Hansen. I mean, but the most important thing was getting them in small groups like this, talking about, sharing ideas, listening to a speaker, then coming into a small group. I could feel it. I told the people that ran the conference afterwards, I just said, don't lose this momentum. Because what you're doing right now is you're elevating coaching to a level that all of you right now would love for it to get. You know, you talk about different things. To me, coaching should be valued. A nation should look at it because it's education for young people. So to me, I mean, this being a part of this journey to take coaching, which will result in taking young people to a place where they can learn the lessons that can help them reach their dreams. I don't know if there's anything greater. My 5th question is this. How are you preparing your athletes for success in life? I've already asked you how you define success. Well, how are you preparing your athletes for success in life? Number 6 may surprise you. Give an example of a time during the past year that you demonstrated courage. Think about it. Imagine this is a job that you really want, and you're sitting there and someone asks you that question. And you have about 10 seconds to formulate a thought and give a response as far as a time that you demonstrated courage. You see, to me, courage is one of those attributes and skills that athletes can learn through their sport. Courage is something that we have to demonstrate as coaches. At West Point, we used to call it courageous communication. Courageous communication is you and I looking at each other eye to eye, just like we are right now, and being honest with one another. Sometimes you have to be able, with your athletes. Sometimes it's very difficult. Maybe you weren't able to keep every player, so you had to let someone go. My thing to you is, did you put it on a piece of paper? Did you send it through an email? Or were you able to go, look that person in the eye, and tell them why you were not able to keep them on the team? And if you need to, look their parents in the eye. Is it difficult? Heck yeah, it is. Does it take courage? Yes, it does. But you know what? Isn't that the right way to do it? That young person probably could really want to be on that team. It could be a dream of theirs. Well, I always put myself in that situation. And I think back on it. Sometimes, you apply for a job, and you're a finalist, and it's almost like, wow, well, maybe they couldn't tell you face-to-face, but why didn't they pick up the telephone and tell me? Why did I have to read it in this letter? Couldn't they at least call me? I mean, to me, see, it's how we work and deal with people. And with your athletes, the same way. They're watching you every step of the way. Think about that. That's an attribute. And if each one of you, you know what? You have courage inside of you. Let it come out. Sometimes we hold it back a little bit. But the response a lot of times right here, it helps me really connect with someone when I hear, and I don't know what they're going to say. There's not a certain answer that I'm expecting. Every case is a little different. And it's not, they have to, oh wow, I had the courage to run into a building that was on fire and save someone. That's not it. I just want to know. Because once someone talks about something courageous, actually what we talked about it all the time with at the military academy. When it became easier for someone to talk about it, it seemed like it became easier for them to do it. And do it over and over again. And get to the point that they didn't even have to think about it. It's doing the right thing. It's basically always doing the right thing no matter what the situation is. Right? I mean, I'm sure when you put that up there, you're trying to think, oh wow, what incredible event happened to me that I could give as an answer. I wasn't looking for that at all. It's just basically doing the right thing no matter what. It can seem really simple. We always make things so much harder than we need to. Okay, this I do want you to write down. It's really important to me. Your 3 greatest strengths. I call them signature strengths. What are your 3 greatest strengths? I can see some of you thinking, oh, what are my 3 greatest strengths? You You have many, many, many strengths. Now, what do you think are your 3 greatest strengths? As you're finishing writing those down, I want you to think a little bit about those 3 strengths. And I'm not going to ask you to share them in front of everyone, but I want you to think about them and take pride in, hey, this is me. You just said this is your signature strength. I take signatures, I'm old-fashioned maybe, but you sign your name to something? To me, that's really important. Well, your signature strength is who you are. When you look in the mirror, that's what you see. These are my 3 signature strengths. I do it with every player that I'm ever going to work with. If I'm going to work with a coach, I want to know what they consider their 3 signature strengths are. When I work with teams, I start out with individuals. But then all of a sudden, once they get comfortable with that, I think players need to know all these strong assets they have. Do they need to know their improvement areas? Most definitely. But many times, and especially with today's athletes, I've learned that starting with success and getting someone to identify that rather than 75% of the time when you talk to someone, you're telling them what they need to be doing better. You need to improve on this. You're no good on that, whatever it may be. Start with the base of the signature strengths. Then what we end up doing is we go to moments of excellence. Call them MOEs. We get them to go back in there over the past year and truly think about 3 special games or possessions, however you want to break it down. But when they're really playing in that zone, because those are the tapes I want them playing in their minds. I don't want them playing in the tapes of them making this mistake and this mistake and this mistake over and over and over again. It's one of the things actually I gained also from studying the All Blacks. They were talking about after 2007 some of the changes they were making, and they were taking more of a success approach rather than always just you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. With your teams, if you have team sports, once you get your athletes to have the 3 strengths, then sometime in an environment where you feel that sometimes I do it in not all when they're all there together at the same time, but I'll just get 2 people, and in basketball there's 12 players, and so they really know each other. And so then I would ask you to tell me what you think my 3 greatest strengths are. I would find out what my teammates said, and then we compare. Then we flip it around. Sometimes it's really amazing because when a player finds out, you say, "Oh, Ralph, I think your 3 greatest strengths are like this." A peer is telling me that. Wow. It just all of a sudden. And then you're kind of surprised because maybe they have one of the same strengths that you have. And that even reinforces what you think about yourself. But then they give you one that you had not even considered. Or you didn't think that was a signature strength. I'm doing it with the University of Minnesota. I've done it for 4 years, but now this is the 4th year. So the freshmen, the first year, now this is their last year. And we've got a really, it's been fun building this program. And the respect they have for one another and the trust they have for one another. But truly on a team, don't you think that everyone should know what everyone's signature strengths are? And they have a chance to have an open discussion about something like this? Because all of a sudden, if you think on a team, what makes teams great is when we start combining all these signature strengths for the good of the team. Yeah, you have those 3 strengths, but now if we're in a team sport, wouldn't it be wonderful? Now, what we're going to end up doing is we're combining those so that now, when we combine everyone's, see, I say this all the time, and every team has a pulse, but it's made up of all these individual pulses. I wanted to know, my staff knew that, and I did. I wanted to know the team pulse every day, but I also wanted to get a feel for every individual pulse, because that individual pulse, if yours is really down someday, the team's pulse is not going to be as high. Really spend time reading your players. Get to your training facility early. When they first, I wanted my staff to be on the basketball court before any player did. So when they came on the court, we could have some type of verbal communication. There was eye-to-eye contact. We got to gauge. Whatever it may be. Body language. It's not so much the words. But understanding the pulse of your team, to me, is so important. Don't underestimate it. Let's look at this. I mentioned before, as coaches, we must create extraordinary results. So I'm going to test you a little bit here because